Hello everyone, today we're going to do a film theory. It's about the Amazing Digital Circus. It's called This Is Not the End of the Amazing Digital Circus. It looks good. I watch game theory and film theory a lot, so let's see.
The finale for the Amazing Digital Circus is finally here. And
Yes.
as expected, there were a lot of laughs and a lot of tears.
True.
And the door left wide open for more stories in this world. That's right, friends. This isn't the end of the Amazing Digital Circus, and I can prove it. Hello, internets! Welcome to Film Theory, the show that's thinking real hard about conjuring subscribe button. Wait, it's right there. Do you see it? Click it for me. So, after a few years, over 1 billion views, a Netflix deal, and more theories than you might expect from this little indie animation that could be amazing.
I watched like episode 1, 2, and 3 theories of game theory, but not. I don't know. I didn't even know he did like episode 4, 5, 6, continuing after that. But I watched like episode 1, 2, 3 theories of game theory, so I haven't watched a digital circus theory in a while. So
Amazing Digital Circus, created by Gooseworks and GlitchProductions, is finally at an end. They actually released this one in theaters, where just like other independent artist-driven projects that started either on or were led by YouTubers, it made bank. $20 million its opening weekend, which is just a game changer for indie animation like this. The episode itself is up for you to go watch right now, but I made a point to get tickets for the finale screening the day it premiered, and you know what? I have a lot of conflicting opinions about it. I have thoughts, but putting all of that aside, seeing this community come together and, at least at my screening, have
I bring Gummy-goo.
A fun time together celebrating this show. Hey, maybe the real finale was the friends we made along the way. Also, shoutouts to Kennedy, William, and the guy in the dope Kinger cosplay at my local screening. Thanks for saying hi. And sorry I did not catch your name, Kinger. I also loved the funny little clip they had with the yellow fish from the beach episode asking folks not to spoil things or leak anything online. They should really like release that online sometime. I don't know, it's like a YouTube short or something. It was hilarious.
They should keep that in theaters for TADC exclusive.
Now, as I said, I have a lot of thoughts about this episode. I'm actually going to be doing a big project pretty soon in the style of the Backrooms timeline, where I sit down and rewatch the whole series now that we have the full story arc and just really break down its themes. But my first reaction? Oh my god, we were actually right about some things. Some pretty big parts of the series, too. Back in our very first theory about the show, after one episode, we predicted
all the characters aren't actually humans trapped inside the digital circus. Instead, they're all digital copies of the brains of humans who've put on these headsets.
And indeed, this finale flat out confirms that these characters were created from brain scans of humans, but that they themselves were not actually human. And hey, by extension, I guess both Jax and Pomni
I want to watch that theory. See how much they got right there.
Both technically AI.
No, don't make that up.
Okay. Listen, I'm just kidding. Put down the pitchfork.
Okay.
Yeah, those theories did not pan out like we had hoped. And, you know, dang it, Jack Black did not voice Kaufmo in the finale, but, you know, can't win them all. Though the Amazing Digital Circus has had its curtains called, I don't believe we've seen the last of this series. And not just because they released a Fortnite collab.
Plus, it would explain why Jonesy has been here the past 2 weeks.
No, given what we see
I bought Pomni skin myself.
In this episode, we haven't seen the final performance of these characters. Not
I actually bought the one bundle, but I made like that short. Say my username that you can give me it. I already bought the bottle.
Yet. But how? In what medium? Will Gooseworks be involved? Please get some rest, Queen. Today, loyal theorists, let's talk this finale. Do some thematic analysis and see just how this series finale leaves the door wide open for the Amazing Digital Circus to come back. Open the door and give that giant abstracted monster a hug, loyal theorists. We're going in. The episode starts with a remake of the very first episode's title theme, but Caine is missing. And when we see what's inside the circus, well, everything's fallen apart. The castmates regroup, and just like I predicted in my last theory, Jax kind of crashes out at Kinger. And he's very upset that the other castmates aren't upset at Kinger for quote-unquote messing up and
that reminded me of Jack's Requiem.
leading Caine. Specifically, he says, quote, he gets to mess up like this and everyone takes his side? And given everyone's silence, yeah, Kinger does. That's what happens when you try to be helpful and kind and good instead of mean and cruel. You get more grace when you make mistakes. Anyway, Kinger reveals that while he was on the computer, he saw that they were all actually brain scans. There is no escape from the circus because they have nothing to escape to. They exist entirely as digital brain scans of real people who have probably moved on with their lives. Understandably, this greatly upsets the cast, and they all need some time to process this alone. But eventually, Pomni goes and finds Kinger, who teaches her how to conjure, and slowly, they start to repair what they can in the circus. One by one, each of the others joins them, well, except for Jax, repairing the circus until eventually, it looks at least a little bit like it did before everything fell apart. Also, it's kind of funny and tragic that Kinger is wearing a bucket on his head.
Dude,
like
I pointed that out, like, when episode 8 came out, in episode 2.
Entire time, and there has to be a better solution to black out light, right? Well, actually, there is, thanks to the partner for today's theory, Manta Sleep. You know how
I'm sorry, but I'm gonna skip the partnership. Like, they get money, but like I don't, so bye.
Amazing Digital Circus. However, not all of them make it. Yeah, before they can find a real equilibrium here again, Jax sadly abstracts. It happens kind of suddenly in the story. Honestly, it was a little bit jarring, but if what they were going for was how abrupt and tragic a real-world death can be, they succeeded here. Anyway, hoping to find something of Jax inside the abstracted creature, Pomni tricks it into a dark space and then just hugs him. From there, she sort of enters what remains of Jax's mind. And this starts a sequence that goes on for like half of the episode. And at least in this first part, Pomni finds a space with a bunch of different doors. And I really liked how they handled this part of the depths of Jax's psyche. It seemed like each of the doors within his mind was actually leading to a scenario that Jax imagined in his head, which was how he would react if each of the other castmates abstracted. Like, we saw that he tried to project like he didn't really care if Gangle abstracted, and he kind of became cruel in his silliness afterwards. He basically becomes like a Looney Tunes character, hurting Zooble, who he knows was very close to Gangle. Likewise,
he didn't hurt him like that. He just pushed him off a cliff, but he didn't like throw stuff out.
More violent and distant, imagining Ragatha abstracting. That's interesting, knowing the relationship that they have now, but given that we find out that they used to be friends in this episode, and that Ragatha is kind of Jax's last connection to the circus that he first arrived in, well, yeah, that makes sense. What's most interesting though here for me is that one of these doors is just completely chained shut. If I had to guess, unless Jax was just like secretly really close to Kinger, that door has to be Pomni's. Despite everything, Jax has let himself get so close to Pomni that he shut off the train of thought even imagining what would happen if Pomni was gone. Anyway, after confronting various parts of Jax's personality and having them like Thanos dust away, which itself seems sad because that seems to be a representative of Jax losing himself to abstraction just little bit by little bit, Pomni eventually finds a room that's just Jax's memories. And here we enter a section of the episode where we literally are seeing from Jax's point of view. We're seeing out of his eyes and his history and journey through the circus from before he entered all the way up to the events of episode 7. And it's a tragic story. His human form was living out on the streets before he entered the circus, but when he did, he found friendship and companionship, particularly with Ragatha, Kaufmo the clown, and this frog character we've only really seen in flashes before, Ribbit. Kaufmo and Ribbit form a close-knit circle with Jax, helping him ease into his new life in the circus. And I mean, Jax and Ribbit get close. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I felt some insane chemistry there. Enough so that when one of the flashbacks has Jax hanging out with Ribbit in her bedroom, I was like, is this going where I think it's going? There are children in this theater. But it doesn't. Though the two do get intimate, it's more about sharing their past and opening up about their trauma. Ribbit shares her bad experiences with religion and her family, while Jax, after a long while, reveals that he did not have a good relationship with his parents at all. He didn't live up to their standards, and he held on to a secret for a long time. And when he eventually revealed that secret to his mother, she just laughed at him in a way that was cruel. But when she tried to hug Jax at the end of it, he just pushed her away. So much so that she fell down and stopped moving, and he wasn't even sure if she was alive afterwards. So he just ran. That's why we saw him on the streets. He was homeless. Given the description of Jax's struggle here, how he blushes when Ribbit puts her bow on his head, the appearance of his human form at the end of the episode, as well as the fact that Gooseworks identifies a lot with Jax, it seemed pretty clear to me that the secret he was carrying and what caused his struggles in the real world was that he was trans. To be clear, I am not saying that being trans is any sort of struggle in and of itself, only that the world is often unfair and cruel to those who don't fall into traditional gender roles or identities. Also, given that Jax and the other castmates in the circus still use he, him for both Jax and his human counterpart, that's what I'm going to be using for the rest of this episode too. Cool? Cool. Unfortunately, before they can continue to open up to one another, Kaufmo interrupts Jax and Ribbit, and Jax sort of panics and leaves.
Why did you use that PNG of the trailer?
Unfortunately, it's all downhill from here. He pushes both Ribbit and Kaufmo away, and just like we saw their relationships build and build, now they fall apart. Jax insists that he made up everything he shared with Ribbit and deliberately hurts her feelings, eventually leading to an argument in a snowy adventure. Ribbit soon abstracts afterwards. Kaufmo follows, and then Pomni appears, leading us to the events of the show. Honestly, this was just a beautiful encapsulation of this character, flaws and all, and gives us a chance to say goodbye to Jax before he completely fades away, because, yeah, there's no stopping this. Despite saying that he doesn't want to go, the Jax entity is flashed with a bright light, and everything we know about Jax is gone. And though the other castmates save Pomni, there's not a lot that they can do for Jax now. They build a sort of makeshift circus out of sheets and curtains for the abstracted Jax to rest in, and then they just mourn their friend. It's sad, man, but the show ain't over yet. We then zoom out and head into the void, where we find Caine? Wait, what? Yeah, gonna be real with you on this one, loyal theorists. I got real confused here. They made such a big deal about Caine being killed at the end of the last episode, and then insisted he was dead outside of the show on social media. If they were gonna bring him back, I think they needed to do a little bit more explaining as to how and why. Like,
I think he was just thrown in the recycling bin.
Like the recycling bin on the computer?
That's what I said. That's what I said. Yo. We have the same mindset, film theory.
Or is this like a hard drive where the data isn't actually gone until it's completely overwritten? I even went back to episode 1 to see if there was more explanation when Caine took Pomni out into the void, but he just said that they weren't really sure what was out there. If you have any other ideas or explanations as to how this happened, please let me know in the comments. But either way, I just don't think that this decision was super earned. Regardless, Caine uses this time alone outside of the circus to reflect on his actions, and he realizes that he was sort of in the wrong. This is huge character development for Caine, and one that really completely changes him for the better. I also have to wonder here, we'd previously joked that maybe Bubble was the remnant of the blue dot AI that Caine had consumed, but we dismissed that for a whole lot of reasons. But at the same time, now, I think it's worth revisiting that idea. See, when Caine does reappear out in the void, he's accompanied by a bubble. It's not the character from the circus, however. It's literally just a bubble that he looks into and sees his own reflection. However, as Caine continues his adventure here in the void, finding the internet access, the brain scans, whatever,
that PNG is from episode 4 when he was reading the Circassians at the start of that episode.
Doesn't follow him. A talking bubble doesn't actually ever really appear again for the rest of the show, and that might be related to Caine sort of ripping the blue dot out and setting it free. I mean, just think about it. Whenever Caine has been sort of glitching out, it seems like it was the blue AI that was the one speaking out against the human cast members. Well, at least that seems to be the case in retrospect. Similarly, Bubble sort of took on that role when speaking to Caine. It was sort of like the evil voice in his ear, the devil on his shoulder, representing his self-doubts about his ability and the castmates.
Maybe you're just genuinely bad at this. You really were the lesser of the two.
So again, was Bubble the manifestation of that inner consciousness for Caine? Of the blue AI deep inside of his code? It also harkens back to one of our original theories that Matt and I wrote ages ago, saying that Bubble could represent that other AI, and that Caine killed a Bubble. You know, Abel, Caine and Abel. Get it? It's dumb, but it kind of works. And also, again, it's a fascinating choice, if this is true, to make the blue dot the villain here, right? Since it's the one that seems to be driving the anti-human sentiment within Caine and leads him to actually hurting the cast. Something I saw pointed out after the last episode, when Caine is crashing out and starts attacking the cast, he like physically pins them down, but he's doing it in a way that wouldn't permanently hurt any of them. Like he's holding Gangle so her ribbons don't fall. He's caging Ragatha and Zooble so their stuffing and pieces don't go flying everywhere, etc., etc. Here, he wants to hurt their feelings to quote-unquote put them in their place, but he doesn't want to hurt them. And that is the red dot Caine that tries so hard to get redemption at the end of this show. Naturally, that makes me think, was the blue dot here the real quote-unquote villain of the show? The one angry at humanity for whatever reason? Was the blue dot a perfect AI frustrated by the imperfections of humanity? Well, if so, that's not what we want or need in this world right now. Humanity is supposed to be imperfect, to grow and learn and make mistakes. And whether or not Glitch and Gooseworks meant to add that sort of anti-AI sentiment into this show when it started, it ended up landing that way. So, you know, nice. Anyway, Caine starts drifting towards, well, something. It's a bit unclear, but we see two versions of the same scene here. One is Caine fully rendered as his Circus Sona, and the other is the red Caine dot from the intro of this episode. I originally interpreted this as what Caine was experiencing and how it was being visualized on the computer monitor where this is all actually taking place in the real world. But we'll come back to that in a second, I promise. At least part of what Caine finds out here looks to be a connection to the outside world. We actually see him break through several invisible walls to get to this connection, which I interpreted as him breaking through whatever sort of firewall was enclosing the computer that the circus is on. This then lets him connect to a Wi-Fi network, and he uses the time to search what's going on with the human identities of the cast. Eventually, he's then booted out and back into the void, and after fighting with himself and almost crashing out again, Caine reaches within himself, literally, and takes out the blue dot AI out of him. Without the blue dots, he's significantly less powerful, but they just weren't compatible. So, with great sadness, Caine says goodbye and lets the blue dot go, and it just sort of floats away. I now have to wonder if that blue dot is just like out there somewhere in the system doing its own human-hating thing, but you know, who knows. Caine returns to the circus and approaches the cast, apologizing for everything he's done to hurt them. Obviously, they're cautious, but Caine wants to give complete control of the circus to the cast now. They can do whatever they want, whenever they want. And as a way to start to repair their relationship, Caine tells them anything and everything.
Where's Ragatha? Why do you get everyone but Ragatha?
Thing that he found out about their human selves. I'm not going to go through all of them now, but most of what we sussed out about their backstories in previous theories was correct. Honestly, this is just a really sweet moment and a real emotional catharsis for the series, giving us a lot of closure for these characters. But the real growth here for the cast of the circus, this is where they accept that they're not these people. Not anymore. When Caine starts calling Pomni Abigail her human name, Pomni instead chooses to go by Pomni instead, because that's who she's really grown to be. Sure, she was Abigail once, but she's not Abigail anymore. The experiences and relationships she's made in this circus have changed her forever. We then get a nice shot of all the characters eating and talking and laughing together around a round table. A direct parallel to how the first episode ended, where they were all lined up on one side of a table. They were part of a picture, a play, an act back then. But now they're looking at one another because they've become a real family. Cue the end credits, where we get more snapshots of the post-ending lives of these characters, including another beach episode, a cooking episode, spelunking, playing in a rock band, Christmas, and Zooble and Gangle straight up having a good time in Zooble's room. You know what? Good for them. The credits also end with Caine putting an orb inside of a locked case, and I wondered if this was supposed to be the blue dot AI at first, but I think that would go against like everything anything else for this ending, so this is likely just like a new adventure or world that he created or something like that. But it could be the blue dot, but it's probably not. And that is where this story comes to a close. But that doesn't mean we're out of things to talk about or that this is the end of the amazing digital circus. And why do I say that?
It's probably
Well,
so
it all
stupid
comes
with the blue dot. Just remind me of Orbsman, because the Orbsman is a bunch of blue balls, and that's just a little blue ball.
down to the segment where Caine is out in the void and how he interacts with the outside world. Yeah, the way this scene was handled was interesting. It cuts between Caine and a humanoid red dot that represents Caine, both making identical movements and animations and both reaching out for something. From the Caine character's point of view, it's a door representing a Wi-Fi network, but from the red dot's point of view, it's a folder full of the brain scans of some members of the cast. When we see the red dot open this folder of the brain scans, again making identical motions to Caine approaching the Wi-Fi door, we see him find the brain scan of a man named Mike Dobby. We then see the red dot create a digital circus and shove Mike Dobby's brain inside of it. We then cut to the stage of the digital circus and Scratch appears out of thin air.
I thought it was that Mike Dobby's, Scratch's real name was like maybe Mike Dobby.
Hold up, wait, what? I'm gonna be real with you guys. This is incredibly unclear. Like, when I was watching this for the first time in theaters, I straight up thought that he'd revived Scratch, and that versions of the old cast were gonna be coming back. You know, maybe they'd have their minds wiped, but we were gonna see them again. In fact, I was at this screening with host of Game Theory, Tom, and he'd gotten up to use the bathroom at this point, and when he got back, I told him that the characters were gonna come back because I thought that's what happened. But then, none of them showed up at the circus at the end. In fact, we get to see how their abstractive selves have found an equilibrium with the rest of the cast, either hanging out in a dark circus tent or in an aquarium-type enclosure that the non-abstracted cast can visit. So, It's strange. So, like, was this thing that we saw like a different circus? A new circus? I mean, Caine did ask, quote unquote, did I ruin this again? Keyword again. And on top of all of this, we see the creation of what we think is the
Caine let Scratch to abstract
digital circus at the beginning of episode 8, with the red dot making it after it absorbs the blue dot. It would be really weird to show that same event in a completely different way in a completely different context, wouldn't it? So that makes me think, yeah, this is a different circus we're seeing made right here. Another thing here, but the number of brain scans doesn't line up with anything we see in the series either. Yeah, if you go back and watch it, there were 10 brain scans in this folder. At least that's how many I counted when I went back for a second screening. But we only see 7 characters, including Kinger, entering the circus at the very beginning. So at first I thought, wait, that's proof that these are likely the brain scans of the abstracted characters. But at the end of the series, when the cast are painting a mural to honor the fallen abstracted castmates, there are only 9 characters on that mural, not 10. So maybe there was a secret castmate hidden out there, like maybe the Abel storyline with the mannequin was based on something real? Well, maybe not, but then I remembered that there are other castmates on the doors of the digital circus that were crossed out that aren't on the mural. So
yeah, I also noticed that.
The numbers here just are not.
The shell abstracted character was also not on the paper.
Lining up. Either Glitch and Gooseworks didn't think that they were important enough to include, there's a story here we don't know, or they just didn't think it through. And I don't think it was that last one. So
maybe they abstracted too fast and that the cast didn't get to know him that good.
Okay, laying down all of the pieces here. Either what we're seeing here is the creation of a brand new circus where all of these older characters are being reborn to start the cycle all over again, or this was showing us Caine creating the original circus again. So like kind of a flashback, I think, maybe. Personally, I'd like it to be the former, but I'm leaning towards it being the latter as the intention here. And though this was a really cool moment for the show, if that was the intention, I don't think it was very well communicated here. I mean, I still can't tell. But all that being said, if Glitch wanted to, this could be the moment for them to break out and turn it into something else. See, ever since this show became such a massive hit, I've had this lingering thought in the back of my mind. They're not gonna, like, just let this end, right? The Amazing Digital Circus is like a once-in-a-lifetime hit for an independent studio like Glitch. These characters and their struggles really connected with an entire generation, and it gave gave Glitch so many resources to do more, to expand out, to sell genuinely high-quality merch, to partner with mainstream stores and brands like
Even
Netflix
Fortnite.
and Hot Topic, and to back other independent projects like the Knights of Guinevere and Gameverse. I just
Did we forget about a show? Like the best show after Digitalcircus and Murder? Literally, where's Gaslight the Strict, dude? You can't be for real.
Do not see a world where they never go back to this well. And that's not just me saying that. That's according to Glitch's global brand manager, Morgana Ignis. Here, check out what she said at one of the screenings of the finale.
I did see that.
This is not the end of the journey for Digital Circus, but this is the end of this specific story.
Did you catch that? Yeah, while this story is done, the Digital Circus isn't. And I mean, there are a couple of ways they could easily do that. There could be a spin-off show about an earlier era of the circus, with the original castmates, for instance. Or they could do comics that are set between the episodes of this show with the main cast. Or maybe they could do, like, I don't know, like a video game. Like, I mean, could you imagine a point-and-click adventure game similar to I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, which inspired the Digital Circus? And I mean, hey, Glitch recently started hiring for a head of games position, so it could be cool. So if they decided to sort of retcon this moment and
game over jokes, because I had never heard that. I think that's a game over. Really? Is this real, guys? I never heard of that.
So it could be cool. So if they decided to sort of retcon this moment and made it so Caine created a new circus here with the mind files of all the original cast members, most of whom we haven't met yet, well, that would mean there's a whole other circus out there that's basically a blank slate. And if the blue dot is indeed a villain here, like we've analyzed in this theory so far, well, it's out there right now, all alone with no red dot Caine to hold it back. Maybe you could find that new circus and truly wreak some havoc. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And
I like that.
Cut. Up
like
next
that.
on Film Theory, Jax from the
he's gonna do more. I'm gonna react to this too. I think if he's gonna do another Digital Circus thing, the Circus theory, I'm going to watch it.
Amazing Digital Circus is not who he appears to be.
What? I mean, yeah, that's true. We already know that. I like that video. It's a good theory. I'm mixed on the idea, but I did like it. So I'm probably gonna watch more game theory videos, or not. Maybe. If I feel like it, I will. But thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. I hope you enjoyed that.